The Royal Guards have long been a symbol of strength, discipline, and unshakable calm. Known for their stoic faces, tall hats, and formal attire, they stand at the most important locations, guarding royal palaces, ceremonial spots, and historical landmarks. People come from all over the world to witness them in action, impressed by their commitment to their duties. These guards are not just soldiers, they are a part of a long tradition that dates back centuries. Their training is intense, requiring a unique blend of physical endurance, mental strength, and absolute focus. In fact, their role is not just about standing still in a uniform. The Royal Guards are highly trained professionals who protect the monarch and the royal family, maintain security at royal events, and ensure that public ceremonies go smoothly. But perhaps one of their most famous qualities is their ability to remain composed no matter what. For hours, they stand motionless, showing no sign of emotion, no matter how hot or cold the weather gets, or how many people try to distract them. This calmness is often mistaken for weakness by those who don't understand the Royal Guard's true strength. People who encounter them sometimes forget that these guards are not ordinary soldiers. They are handpicked for their skills and qualities. The guards undergo rigorous training, learning how to handle stressful situations, stay alert, and defend themselves if needed. They are also taught how to deal with provocations, which is a skill many people don't realize. It is easy to assume that the guards are there to be admired from a distance, and many visitors feel tempted to try and get a reaction out of them. Some do this out of curiosity, while others might feel the need to prove something to themselves or others. However, what many don't realize is that provoking a royal guard is not only disrespectful, but also dangerous. The guards are not there to entertain or engage with the public. They have a job to do, and they take it very seriously. When people try to push their boundaries, it is the guards' duty to calmly and firmly stop them, making sure no one crosses the line. This shows the power of their self-control, as they can easily handle a situation without losing their cool. There's an unspoken rule when it comes to interacting with the Royal Guards. Respect is key. It's easy to forget the level of discipline required to carry out such a job. Their position is not just about standing still. It's about standing tall in the face of challenges and staying focused on what's important. Some individuals, however, often test these limits, either unknowingly or with an intent to provoke. What they fail to understand is that the Royal Guard is a symbol of authority and control, not someone who will tolerate disruption. Their strength is not in their weapons or uniforms, but in their ability to remain calm and composed under any circumstance. The stories that follow show just how far people have gone in testing the Royal Guard's patience. While some of these incidents were harmless and motivated by curiosity, others were more serious, with individuals pushing the guards too far. But in every case, the Royal Guard stood their ground. The next parts of the story will reveal the top moments when people thought they could get away with messing with the Royal Guard, only to regret it in the end. One sunny afternoon, a loud and rowdy tourist approached a Royal Guard posted near one of the busiest historic landmarks. The tourist, clearly excited and perhaps unaware of the seriousness of the guard's role, began to shout for attention. He wanted to take the perfect picture with the guard, and he believed that getting a reaction from the guard would make for the best shot. The guard, however, remained motionless, his gaze fixed ahead, ignoring the tourist completely. The tourist, not content with the guard's calm response, began to wave his arms in front of the guard's face, hoping for some sign of reaction. He took a few steps closer, thinking that maybe if he got even closer, the guard would finally break his stoic posture and give him the moment he wanted. But the guard didn't move an inch. No smile, no sign of acknowledgement, just pure silence. At this point, the tourist, growing bolder, stepped right in front of the guard and waved his hands directly in the guard's line of sight. Surely, he thought, this would make the guard flinch or respond in some way. But still, nothing happened. The Royal Guard stood unwavering, showing no signs of discomfort, irritation, or impatience. This level of composure only made the tourist more frustrated. He decided to try one more thing. He gently pushed the guard on the shoulder, as if trying to get a physical reaction from the stoic soldier. This small, harmless touch was meant to see if the guard would budge. To the tourist's surprise, the guard didn't flinch. Instead, with a smooth and calm motion, the guard's hand shifted slightly, signaling the tourist to move aside without saying a word. The tourist, realizing that he had gone too far, immediately backed off. The guard didn't make a scene, didn't raise his voice, and didn't make any threatening gestures. He simply maintained his position and removed the tourist from his personal space in the most professional and composed manner. As the tourist walked away, embarrassed and shocked by the calmness of the guard, it became clear that he had learned a valuable lesson. Royal guards are not there for entertainment. They are serious, dedicated professionals who are trained to handle situations with a level of composure that few can truly understand. The tourist, now slightly wiser, couldn't help but reflect on how he had underestimated the power of silence and self-discipline. This incident became one of many where people tried to test the patience of the royal guards, only to be reminded that these guards weren't just standing there for show. They were there to protect, to uphold tradition, and to remain unshaken, no matter how hard someone tried to break their calm demeanor. It was a powerful reminder that respect for others, especially those in positions of authority, should always be a priority. And for this tourist, it was a moment of realization that would stay with him for a long time. One day, a biker, wearing a leather jacket and sunglasses, decided to test the royal guard stationed near a historic monument. The biker, with a loud laugh and a sense of superiority, rode his motorcycle up to the guard, thinking he could provoke a reaction. He pulled up right next to the guard, revving the engine loudly as if to see if the guard would even blink. The biker, clearly looking for a reaction, didn't care that the guard was standing still and focused on his duties. Instead, he smiled to himself, expecting some kind of emotional outburst or surprise from the soldier. The royal guard, however, didn't flinch. The biker revved the engine again, thinking that maybe a louder sound would get a reaction. But the guard remained silent and still, not acknowledging the noise at all. The biker grew more impatient and thought he could have some fun with the situation. He slowly got off his motorcycle and, with an exaggerated motion, began to walk closer to the guard. He started mimicking the guard's stance, attempting to stand in the same rigid position, trying to look just as imposing. He even went as far as to attempt to push the boundaries, getting closer and closer to the guard, as if daring him to move or say something. But the guard still didn't respond. The biker's playful challenge wasn't enough to break the calm and focus of the guard. The biker, now feeling a little ridiculous but still trying to get some sort of reaction, moved even closer. He reached out as if to touch the guard's ceremonial weapon. Perhaps, the biker thought, touching the weapon would stir some sort of defensive reaction. But as soon as his hand came near the guard's weapon, the guard calmly shifted his posture and placed a firm hand on the handle, silently signaling that this was not an appropriate action. The biker stopped in his tracks, finally realizing that his antics weren't working. He had pushed too far, and the guard had silently demonstrated that he would not tolerate such behavior. The biker, realizing his mistake, quickly stepped back, a little embarrassed by how he had underestimated the situation. He looked around at the people who had gathered to watch, their eyes now on him, and realized that he was the one who had been out of line, not the royal guard. What stood out most to the biker was how effortlessly the guard had handled the situation. The guard hadn't yelled, hadn't raised a fist, and hadn't even moved aggressively. He simply used calmness and self-control to diffuse the situation, reminding the biker that some lines should never be crossed. As the biker walked away, he couldn't help but think about the strength of the royal guard's composure. What seemed like an easy target had turned into a lesson in respect, and the biker would surely think twice before testing the patience of someone in a position of authority again. This moment was another reminder that royal guards are not just symbols of authority, but people who embody discipline and control. They handle situations with quiet strength, and their ability to remain composed, no matter the provocation, is truly something to be respected. One afternoon, a small child, no older than 6 or 7, walked with their parents near a famous historical palace where a royal guard stood proudly on duty. The child was curious and filled with excitement, marveling at the sight of the tall, silent soldier. The guard's towering presence and his perfectly still stance fascinated the young child, who had never seen such a disciplined figure before. As the family walked past, the child, eager to learn more, approached the guard and stood right in front of him, her tiny hand outstretched as if to get the guard's attention. The child's parents, who were a few steps behind, didn't notice immediately that their daughter had stepped so close to the guard. The little girl, full of innocent curiosity, giggled and attempted to wave at the guard to see if he would smile or wave back. To her surprise, the guard did not acknowledge her in any way. He simply stood there, his eyes fixed on the distance, not moving a muscle. The child, not understanding the seriousness of the situation, took a few more steps closer to the guard, wanting to see if he would respond in some way. Her parents, now realizing what was happening, quickly rushed forward to call her back. But before they could reach her, the royal guard made a slight, deliberate movement. Without saying a word, he subtly adjusted his position to ensure the child wasn't too close. The movement wasn't abrupt or harsh, just a gentle reminder that personal space was important, and the guard had a responsibility to maintain his position without being distracted. The child, though startled by the guard's action, didn't seem upset. She simply looked up at the guard, her innocent eyes full of wonder. The guard, still silent and motionless, was an embodiment of quiet authority, yet his presence wasn't one of intimidation. Instead, it showed the child the importance of respecting boundaries. The child's parents, now standing by her side, smiled at the professionalism and patience the guard had shown, recognizing the important lesson the child had just learned. As the family moved on, the little girl looked back at the guard, her eyes wide with admiration, as if she had just witnessed something remarkable. She had come close to breaking a rule, but the gentle intervention of the royal guard showed her that respect and boundaries were an important part of the world around her. She may not have fully understood the guard's role, but she now knew that some people, like the royal guard, had a job to do, and they had to be taken seriously. For the parents, it was a moment of quiet pride, knowing that their child had seen firsthand the importance of respect for those who serve in special roles. And for the royal guard, it was just another example of how his silent discipline had made an impact, even in the most unexpected of circumstances. Through this interaction, the child had learned a valuable lesson that would stay with her for years to come. The guard's patience and professionalism, even in the face of a small child's curiosity, left a lasting impression on everyone who witnessed it. One evening, a lively group of partygoers, all in high spirits and clearly enjoying a night out, found themselves wandering near the famous ceremonial spot where the royal guard stood. The group, laughing and joking loudly, took no notice of the serious duty the guards were performing. Their eyes sparkled with mischief, and they thought it would be funny to approach the guard and have a little fun at his expense. Perhaps they thought it would be amusing to see if the guard would react to their boisterous behavior. The group, still filled with energy from the party, approached the guard, trying to provoke him with loud voices and silly antics. One of them even pretended to trip in front of the guard, exaggerating the fall as though it were some kind of performance for an audience. Others joined in, making faces or trying to make the guard laugh by acting out ridiculous gestures. All the while, the royal guard remained perfectly still, his face expressionless, and his eyes fixed straight ahead, unfazed by the chaos surrounding him. The group, sensing that the guard wasn't responding in the way they had hoped, grew bolder. They started to get closer, one by one, trying to get the guard's attention. They began making more exaggerated sounds, shouting even louder, thinking that maybe this would finally get a response. Some of them even stepped right in front of the guard, blocking his view, as if trying to force him into some kind of reaction. But despite their antics, the guard remained unfazed. He didn't yell at them, didn't make any gestures of annoyance, and didn't let the chaos distract him from his duty. His calm demeanor, in fact, only made the situation more uncomfortable for the partygoers. They had expected the guard to show some sign of frustration, or maybe a verbal warning, but nothing happened. The more they tried to get a rise out of him, the more they realized that they were only making themselves look foolish. Eventually, the group's energy began to fade as they realized that the guard wasn't going to engage with them. The jokes and antics that had started out as funny and entertaining quickly lost their charm. In fact, the more they persisted, the more they felt embarrassed. It became clear that the royal guard wasn't someone they could mess with for fun. He was there to do a job, and nothing was going to disrupt that. As the group turned to walk away, one of them stopped and glanced back at the guard. They couldn't help but feel a sense of respect for the soldier's unwavering discipline. It was clear now that the guard wasn't just standing there to look impressive. He was serious about his duty. The group had learned an important lesson that night. Respect for the royal guard was not optional, and trying to break his composure only made them look disrespectful. The guard, still standing tall and silent, had done exactly what he was trained to do. Without a single word, he had handled the situation with such calmness and strength that the partygoers had no choice but to retreat, their confidence shattered by the quiet authority of the royal guard. As they walked away, the group reflected on how their playful teasing had turned into a moment of quiet realization. On one busy afternoon, a young man, full of bravado and a sense of adventure, decided to test the limits of a royal guard. He had heard stories of people trying to provoke the guards and saw it as a challenge he was eager to take on. With a confident stride, he approached the guard stationed at one of the busiest tourist attractions. The young man, believing he could outsmart the guard, stood in front of him and began to mock the soldier's stoic posture. He started making exaggerated movements, trying to imitate the guard's stance, as though he was mocking the very essence of the guard's disciplined behavior. At first, the guard didn't react. The young man, thinking his actions were amusing, began to escalate. He moved closer, slowly at first, but then with more energy, trying to get the guard to show even a flicker of emotion. He even began to make silly faces and exaggerated gestures, hoping to get a chuckle or some sign of recognition. But the guard remained completely still. The young man, undeterred by the lack of response, continued with his antics, pushing the boundaries further, attempting to get a reaction from the guard. He moved closer and closer, now standing inches away, trying to get into the guard's line of sight, expecting the guard to break his composure. Despite the young man's increasing boldness, the royal guard didn't flinch. He didn't speak a word, didn't even blink. He was unwavering in his commitment to his duty. The young man, now growing frustrated, made one last attempt to provoke the guard. He stood directly in front of him, staring intently into his eyes, trying to break the guard's focus with his own challenge. Still, the guard stood unmoved, his gaze as steady as ever, his posture rigid and composed. It was at this point that the young man began to realize just how wrong he had been. He had underestimated the guard's strength, not in physicality, but in his ability to maintain discipline and control in the face of provocation. The guard's calmness was not a sign of weakness. It was a sign of immense strength. The young man had thought he could challenge the guard, but in doing so, he had only exposed his own lack of respect for the guard's role. The situation grew uncomfortable for him, as the crowd around them began to notice the exchange. The young man, now embarrassed by his own actions, began to feel the weight of the moment. He stepped back slowly, his confidence now replaced by a sense of regret. As he walked away, he couldn't help but reflect on what had just happened. The royal guard had not needed to say a word, not needed to react with force or anger. The guard had simply stood his ground, showing that true power lies in the ability to remain calm and composed, no matter the provocation. The young man had learned a valuable lesson that day: respect for authority, especially someone as disciplined as the Royal Guard, was something that should never be taken lightly. What seemed like an easy target for amusement had turned into an experience that left him with a deep respect for the Guard's quiet strength. One day, a well-known celebrity, accustomed to the luxury of being treated like royalty, found themselves visiting a historic landmark where a Royal Guard was stationed. The celebrity, used to people fawning over them and getting special treatment everywhere they went, was in no mood to follow the usual rules. They strolled up to the Guard, casually expecting that their fame would somehow grant them a different experience than the average visitor. With a smile, they greeted the Guard in a way that suggested they were above the rules. The celebrity was used to being recognized, being the center of attention, and having people cater to their every whim. However, the Royal Guard, who had seen countless people from all walks of life pass by, didn't flinch or respond to the celebrity's approach. The Guard remained still and silent, his eyes fixed forward, showing no sign of acknowledging the celebrity's presence. For a moment, the celebrity thought the Guard hadn't noticed them and tried to get closer, thinking that maybe the Guard just hadn't realized who they were. With a confident air, the celebrity attempted to speak, expecting some sort of conversation, or perhaps a warm smile from the Guard. But the Guard didn't say a word. He didn't smile, didn't acknowledge the celebrity's attempt at charm. The celebrity, now feeling slightly confused, thought that perhaps they hadn't tried hard enough. So they leaned in a little closer and raised their voice just enough to be heard clearly, trying once again to engage the Guard with a friendly comment. But again, nothing happened. The Royal Guard stood tall, unbothered, with complete focus on his duty. The celebrity, whose usual encounters were filled with admiration, now found themselves facing a wall of silence. Feeling their ego a little bruised, the celebrity began to wonder what was going on. They had never experienced anything like this before, being ignored, not even receiving the slightest hint of recognition. They tried again, more persistently this time, attempting to get the Guard's attention with a joke or playful remark. Yet the Guard did not react in the slightest, not even changing his expression. He didn't laugh or respond to the celebrity's attempts to be friendly. He remained firm and composed, making it clear that his role was not about entertainment or engaging with anyone who sought special treatment. At this point, the celebrity began to realize something. It wasn't about who they were or how famous they might be. It was about respect for the Guard's position. The Royal Guard wasn't there to entertain anyone, no matter how famous they might be. They were there to do their duty, to maintain order, and to protect the dignity of the institution they served. It didn't matter if you were a celebrity or an ordinary person. The rules applied to everyone. In that moment, the celebrity understood the strength of the Guard's composure, the quiet authority that came from knowing their duty and staying true to it, no matter who came by. With a sense of humility settling in, the celebrity backed off and walked away, their earlier confidence now replaced by a newfound respect for the Royal Guard. They had expected their fame to make a difference, but instead they had been reminded of a simple truth. Some things, like the dignity and responsibility of the Royal Guard, were far greater than any fame or status. The celebrity's encounter with the Guard had shown them the power of quiet authority and the importance of respecting those who serve with such dedication. It was a humbling experience, one that left the celebrity thinking about how they approached the world around them. As the day came to a close, the Royal Guard remained stationed, standing silently at his post, while the world around him continued with its usual hustle and bustle. People came and went, some admiring the beauty of the palace, others taking photos or simply enjoying the atmosphere. Yet, the Guard remained unaffected by the passing crowds. His duty was to stand firm, to remain vigilant, and to uphold the traditions that had been passed down for generations. His dedication to his role was unshakable, no matter how many people tried to provoke him or ignore him. The stories of those who had tested the patience of the Royal Guard all had one thing in common: a lesson learned. For some, It was a realization of the true strength that lay in remaining calm under pressure. For others, it was a humbling moment where they discovered the value of respect and discipline. In every case, the Royal Guard had shown that true authority didn't need to be loud or forceful. It simply needed to be steadfast and unwavering. His presence was enough to remind those around him that some things were beyond entertainment, beyond mockery, and beyond personal gain. As people left the area, they carried with them a sense of admiration for the Guard's quiet strength. Many of them had come to see the Guard as just another figure in a ceremonial uniform, perhaps someone to smile at or photograph. But after witnessing the way he handled every challenge with such grace, they left with a newfound respect for the role he played. The Guard was not there to be a spectacle. He was there to protect something much more important: his commitment to duty, to history, and to the values that his position represented. The stories of those who had attempted to test the Royal Guard's patience served as reminders that respect and discipline were not just values to be admired, but ones that should be practiced. Every person who had tried to break the Guard's calm had walked away with a deeper understanding of what it meant to show respect, to stay focused, and to recognize the importance of one's role in society. They had learned that some positions, like that of the Royal Guard, required more than just physical strength. They required the strength to remain composed and to do what was right, even when it seemed easier to react. In the end, the Royal Guard's role was more than just standing in one place. It was about being a symbol of discipline, focus, and respect for tradition. It was about showing that true strength often came in the form of quiet composure. The Guard's unspoken lesson left a lasting impression on all who encountered him. Those who had tested his patience and found it unbreakable now knew that authority wasn't about overpowering others. It was about maintaining control, no matter the situation. And in a world where distractions and chaos often take center stage, the Royal Guard's presence reminded everyone that there is power in silence, strength in stillness, and wisdom in knowing when to stand firm and when to walk away.